Something interesting happened during one of the sessions we had yesterday, JLS. It was explosive. I've never been in such a meeting in my life. Now, the last speaker, which was the fifth speaker yesterday, Dan Owolabi, you need to hear this story. He shared the story of a woman, a Nigerian woman, who is now a professor in University of Louisville. Said this woman was born okay, and then while growing up, she became deaf. And then struggled through school. Eventually left secondary school at age 20. Father, mother, sibling had lost interest in her. They felt she couldn't become anything. And then she started losing faith in herself. And then one day, and she went to church. The same way you are in church this morning. She came into church and she met, is it Dr. Sunday Ojomu or Dr. Foster? I think Dr. Foster. So she met in church Dr. Foster. And then Dr. Foster singled her out of the crowd. And I said, don't quit. Don't give up on yourself. And then went ahead to say, there's this scholarship the federal government is giving to disabled people to go and study in the U.S. All right? So gave her the form. She went to the ministry, and they went there, she went there very early, sat down in the lobby, and then when it was her turn, went to see the director, and the director started talking to her, and then she told the director, I'm deaf, I can't hear. And then say, write on paper. The director wrote, and then she responded, she answered. The director said to her, go and wait for me in the lobby. Every other person that came, the director attended to them. And then she was the last person standing. And then the director was done with work that they came out to lock the door and saw her there and said, you are still here, or I go and come back next week. She came back again next week, the same thing repeated. He said, go again and come next week. She came again next week, the same thing repeated. It lasted for 2 years. She kept coming every week for 2 years. By the time she came at the turn of the second year, the director she met was a different person. The other man had retired. There's a new director. By the following week that she met the new director, she was in the U.S. Can you hold on for 2 years for one thing? Now she's a professor, teaching at American University in Nigeria, who held on for 2 years. How many times have you failed? You see Pastor Mike looking like black American president. He wrote jam twice. 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. You heard my story over and over again. Wrote English 7 years. 7 times in 7 years. 7 times in 7 years. How many times have you failed? You know, those who never fail don't succeed much. So if you have failed repeatedly, it's a sign that you'll go very far in life. Smile at a neighbor and say, don't quit. Please be seated. Matthew 14, quickly let's read from 28 to 32. Matthew 14, let's quickly read from 28 to 32. Read with me quickly, somebody. Matthew 14, 28 to 32. Can we read together? Everybody want to go? And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid and beginning to sink. He cried out, saying, Lord, save me. Pay attention. And immediately Jesus stretched out of his hand and caught him and said to him, O ye of little faith, why did you doubt? So fear makes people doubt. And when they got, now read verse 32, everybody with me. Want to go? Listen to me quickly. You need to hear this before I get into my message. Fear is actually meant to stop you from getting into your boat. The singular goal of fear is so that you don't become who you are destined. The Bible says, as soon as they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Now, this is the most pathetic part of the story. If fear can come at those walking by faith, what is the hope of those walking in fear already. Peter came out by faith out of the boat to walk on water. And fear attacked him. What of those who are in the boat who have refused to get out of the boat? As soon as they got into the boat, do you know why people fail repeatedly most of the time? The enemy is afraid of who they will become. Do you know why people fail repeatedly? Do you know why people are abused? Because Satan is afraid of who they will become. So please take this away from this service today. If you have failed repeatedly, it's a sign that your greatness will be global. If you have failed again and again, if you have experienced delay again and again, it's a sign that Satan is afraid of who you are going to become. So tell yourself, I will become. I told you my story, a cleaner and a messenger in a business center owned by the couple that live in 2A Badagry Road. They don't allow us inside their house. You stay outside at the gate with security. If rain is falling, you hide under leaves. You are on your own. You can't stay inside the house. You can't. With time, because of my diligence, commitment, and creativity, I became the favorite among staff. So sometimes they can ask me to carry load and enter the house and drop it and then carry myself out. If you have failed before, if you have failed again and again, it's a sign that the enemy is afraid of who you will become. I want you to fall in love with failure when you fail. And tell yourself, this is another sign. Fall in love with failure when you fail. Tell yourself, this is another sign. Hear this, ladies and gentlemen. Fear, you don't have any option but to kill fear 100%. Let me quickly tell you something about fear. A few things about fear. Please, write as fast as you can. Let me tell you a few things about fear. Number one, 2 Timothy 1:7. It says, God has not given you the spirit of fear. Fear is a spirit. It can possess people. It can obsess people. Fear is a spirit. Has it ever happened before to you in recent time or while you were growing up? You walked into an atmosphere, maybe the place is dark, and then you're afraid and goose pimples all over you. Has it happened to anybody before? It looks like your hair has just grown longer. Has it happened to anybody like that? Fear is a spirit. Always remember that. So anytime you are afraid, remember that spirit, an evil spirit is around me. And what do you do to an evil spirit? Always remember, anytime you sense fear, you are sensing an evil spirit. For God has not given you the spirit of fear. So fear is a spirit. And it's not from God. If it's not from God, where is it from? Where is it from? Can we read that together, everybody? 1, 2, go. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Let me whisper to your neighbor, fear is a spirit. Fear holds people down, holds people bound. Fear ties people to the same spot. Do you know James was in the same boat? John was in the same boat. Thomas was in the same boat. Matthew was in the same boat. Judas was in the same boat. Fear kept them in the boat. But Peter got out of the boat and walked on water. So fear stagnates. The decision you should have taken. Jesus said to Peter, I am the one. They were all in the boat. They all had come. But Peter responded to the word come and walked on water to go to Jesus. While others remain in the boat. Fear stagnates people. Fear keeps people on the same spot. Fear keeps people on the same spot. They won't move. They are in their father's house at 41. Because their father owned the compound. They have one boy's quarter they are staying at 41. Married into their father's house with children. Listen, fear is what keeps people in their comfort zone. Nobody breaks record in their comfort zone. Listen to me. You can't break record if you don't have discomfort. You cannot break record in your comfort zone. It will require some discomfort for you to break record. You know why? Because when you get into your discomfort zone, you will pray a little more. You will believe God a little more. You will know, Lord, if you don't come through for me, I am finished. But if you are comfortable with or without God, you are managing your life. So people who stay in their comfort zone through fear, they don't do anything significant in life. How can Standard Trust Bank swallow UBA? Is that his name? Standard Trust Bank, small bank, new generation bank, swallowed UBA 80 years. Come on now. How can a cat swallow an elephant? When a cat has conquered fear, a cat will swallow an elephant that is fearful. That is the way life is. That is the way life is. A cat that is fearless will swallow a fearful elephant any day, anytime. Listen to me. An unbeliever who is fearless will employ a believer who is fearful, even though they have the same qualification. When you are afraid, you are already dead. Pay attention. I said fear is a spirit. In other words, fear is a demon, an evil spirit. Fear is a demon. And what do you do to demons? You cast it out. When Satan starts telling you something, suggesting something to you about your spouse, about your child, about your sibling, and it's negative, cancel it, bind it, run! Have you forgotten? Have you forgotten? Jesus was talking about how he was going to go to the cross and die and all of that. He said, in 3 days, I will put this house down, and in 3 days I will rebuild it. And Peter in Matthew 16, and Peter said, God forbid, you are not going to die. Your life is useful here. You know what Jesus said? He said, get thee behind me, Satan. Who was he facing? But the voice he was hearing was the voice of Satan. That is how to deal with fear. Remember today that fear is a demon. And fear stagnates. Fear cripples. Nobody go forward with fear. Nobody make progress with fear. Everyone who is fearful retrogress. Nobody make progress with fear. Nobody. Fear limits people. Fear places a cap on how much anyone can accomplish. How far anyone can go. You need to hear this. In Numbers 13, God told Moses, I have given you the land of Canaan. Pick a leader from the 12 tribes. Let them go and check out the land and see that it's full of grapes and is flowing with milk and honey. The Bible said this man went and saw grape and saw milk and honey. But when they returned, they said, no, that cannot be for us. Fear robs people of God's best for them. Fear robs people of God's best for them. They said, even though what God said about the land is what it is, but this other thing that God said that we will take it over, no, that cannot happen. Because we are grasshoppers in our eyes, and so are we in the eyes of the Canaanites. So we cannot. So God saw the first one right, but he didn't see this other one right because of fear. Fear robs people of God's best for them. Maybe we should read that together. Numbers 13. Can we read that together? There we saw the giant, the descendant of Anak from the giant. And we were like grasshoppers in our own sight. And so we went in their sight. Did they have a conversation with them? No. It was fear that gave them the interpretation. You know you are a grasshopper, and they are seeing you as a grasshopper. This conversation, this is a report they came from Canaan with. It was a report they had with the demon of fear. They didn't have any form of interaction with the Canaanites. They just went around like somebody who came to the market to buy goods. And they returned and said, we are grasshoppers in our own eye. That was what the demon of fear said to them. Philippians 4:13. Can you echo it with me? Philippians 4:13. Can you echo it with me loud and clear? I can do all things through Christ. Say it loud and clear. I can do all things through Christ. Again, I can do all things through Christ. Say it one more time. I. One more time. I. Say it again and again. I. One more time. I. Close your eyes and screaming. Arolabashata. The text we read a while ago, listen, and for those of you who are on a mission, fear aborts people's dreams. Pay attention to that. For everyone who is taking faith steps, you must remember that fear will attack. The story we read about Peter, when he said, Jesus, if you are the one, ask me to come. And Jesus said to him, come. And the Bible says he came out of the boat and he actually walked on water to go to Jesus. And then the demon of fear was stirred up. And he brought about a boisterous wave and aborted Peter's dream. So even for those of us who have stepped out in faith, you must remember that fear aborts. You must have that at the back of your mind. So that when it comes, you recognize, okay, you have come, I'm prepared for you. You have come, I'm ready for you. You have come, I'm loaded. The Bible says, and Peter stepped out of the boat and walked on water to go to Jesus. And you pay attention, by the time the demon of fear started acting, and then fear gripped him, he was very close to Jesus. He was almost there. He was almost there. There are people who have been pursuing the same thing for 30 years, 25 years. They are 1 year to go, 5 years to go, maybe 7 years to go, maybe 6 months to go, and then the demon attacks, and then the dream is aborted. But thank God he cried to Jesus. Jesus merely stretched forth his hand. You know where Jesus was standing, they couldn't see him, right? That means it wasn't so close. Maybe it was at the gate, or even beyond the gate of the king's city. And then he had come out of the boat, and he had walked so close that while he was sinking, he was maybe 3 steps away. Jesus just stretched forth his hand, picked him out of the water. Always remember that fear aborts people's dreams. Never you forget that. And anytime you are working at something and you are making progress, and suddenly you start having a strong feeling that something is going to go wrong, always remember that is the voice of the demon of fear. That is the voice of the demon of fear. That is the voice of the demon of fear. Because you look back, God put this dream in my heart. God gave me this vision. And now I'm doubting whether it's going to happen or not. That is the spirit of fear. Because fear aborts people's dreams. Listen, when you set a big goal, and as you're approaching July, August, September, and you are maybe 5% to achieving your dream, only 5% into achieving your dream, you're not okay. Let me cut it down. That's the spirit of fear suggesting that to you. Because 1,000 years to God is like a day. And a day, do you understand what I'm talking about? What God did in 9 months, he can do in 9 days. Somebody with me this morning. Is somebody with me this morning? You need to hear this. Exodus 13:17. I saw that fear prolongs people's suffering. Fear prolongs people's pain, suffering, and poverty. Fear prolongs people's pain, people's suffering, people's poverty. Fear prolongs people's sickness. Let's read that text together, everybody. Want to go? Then it came to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. When they see war, underline that. When they see war, why will they return to Egypt? Because when they see war, they will be afraid and return back to Egypt. Our text, Matthew 14, the Bible says, when Peter saw the wave boisterous, he was afraid. So God said, lest they see war and return to Egypt. Let they see war and be afraid and return to Egypt. So God allowed them to go through a journey of 40 years instead of 40 days. The way of the Philistines was a 40-day journey. The way through the wilderness was a 40 years journey. So fear can make a man do a job of 40 days in 40 years. Fear can convert a job of 40 days to 40 years. Fear can convert a job you can do in 20 days to 20 years. Say, God did not lead them through the way of the Philistines, even though it was near. It was near to where they are headed. Say, lest they see war and be afraid and return to Egypt. So he left them through the fiery wilderness, and they were there for 40 years instead of 40 days because of. Bro, some prayers we are praying will never be answered until we have dealt with the spirit of fear. Fear prolongs people's suffering, people's poverty, people's sickness, people's pain. There are 2 principal sources of fear. There are 2 principal sources of fear. 2 principal sources of fear. Number 1 is unbelief. Psalm 27 verse 13, David said, unless I had believed to see the glory of the Lord, the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, he would never have seen it. Unless, he said, I will have lost heart. I will have fainted. Another version said, I will have fainted. unless I had believed that I will see the goodness of the Lord. So whatever you don't believe, you cannot see. Unbelief is the principal source of fear. God said it, but you doubt it, so you don't see the manifestation. Because unbelief and fear, they are in one family. It's a Siamese twins. Is that the correct English word? Is that the correct English word? Siamese. It's a twin that is joined together. Maybe they are only separated in the head. They have one heart. Two of them have two kidneys, one liver. They are joined together. Whether you pull through this hex mouth or through other this, it goes, doctor, what is the name? Siamese twins. Unbelief and fear, they are joined twins. Inseparable. So wherever you have unbelief, you have fear. Not that you will have fear. You have fear. Wherever there is unbelief, there is fear. When the Bible says you shall be the head and not the tail, immediately you started doubting that you have signed to be the tail. You have signed the certificate of remaining at the bottom. Say, I hear. Glory to God. Anybody learning this morning? Luke 1:45. Blessed is she that believeth, for there shall be a performance of those things that were told her from the Lord. So, blessed, what is the opposite of blessed? Unblessed, because it's too strong a word. But that's the truth. Cursed is he or she that doesn't believe, for there will not be a performance of those things that were told him or her from the Lord. It's painful, it's hard, but that is what it is. Blessed is she that believeth, for there shall be a performance of those things that were told her from the Lord. Cursed is she that does not believe, because there won't be a performance of those things that were told her from the Lord. And blessed is she that believed, for there shall be a performance of those things which were told her from the Lord. Now, if you read, you understand this verse better when you read Deuteronomy 28, dethrone your enemy 28 from verse number 1 to 15. It says, if thou shalt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord your God to observe and to do whatever he command you today, he said, the Lord your God will lift you up above all the nations of the earth. Are you hearing me? When you get to verse number 15, it says, cursed is everyone who will not do. Let's just read verse 1 and then verse 15. I'm trying to explain Luke 1:45. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord your God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these causes. So the principal source of fear is unbelief. So you don't know what you are up against. When you say, you know, me and Thomas, we are related. I mean, Thomas in the Bible that doubted everything. Not the Thomases in this year. I'm talking about disciple Thomas. So when you say me and Apostle Thomas were related, be careful. Be careful. Thomas doubted everything. He said Jesus has risen from the dead. He didn't believe it when Jesus said so. Even when others said we saw him, he said until I see him. He said until I see him. Thomases don't make mark. Arandoko. Apostle Thomas, those people who doubt, we walk by faith. We don't walk by sight. People who walk by sight, they are Thomases. People who live by sight, they believe it only if they can see it. They don't go very far. There's only one thing we heard about Thomas, the Apostle Thomas, and that was because that broke him down. When he saw Jesus and put his hand, Jesus said, come, put your hand through my wound. Touch my side. That broke him down. Eventually, he went to India. He started a church, Thomas Church in India. That church, I think, is still there up till now. When he went there and he was trying to preach Jesus, they said, no. We are magicians here. We need proof. He said, give me a cup of water. They gave Thomas a cup of water. He threw it up. I said, the water will hang in the air. And the water hung in the air. That was how he started a church in India. Because the resurrection of Jesus was a turning point. It is my prayer that this service today will be a turning point in your life. It is my prayer today's service will be a turning point in your life. Listen to me. If you are not afraid, nothing is against you. Nothing can be against you until you are afraid. Nothing can be against you until you are afraid. Nothing can be against you. There is nothing you cannot achieve until you are afraid. The young man, a Nigerian young man, Dan Owolabi speaking. I didn't finish the story. He said it took him when he was to do a 2-year graduate course in the US, and it took him 7 years. Pay attention. Now he's speaking at Global Leadership Summit. By the 7th year, he wrote the exam. He was so excited. So when the result came out, he was already married and have a child. Was Baba. So he called the wife, called the daughter. He said, come, my result is out. Praise the Lord. They opened the result and they say, dear Dan Owolabi, we regret to inform you that you failed. And he said, no, you don't even need degree to succeed. I don't need this paper, this and that. And the wife said, can you go and talk to your mother? Then he left and went to talk to his mom. While he went to the kitchen, made the mother in the kitchen, while he narrated all of the story to the mother. And the mother said, wait for me in the kitchen. The mother went into her room and brought a picture of a woman with her son, in her graduation gown with her son, and presented the picture to him and said, Owolabi, this woman here is me. That little boy there is you. It was that same Nigerian woman who was going back to that office every week for 2 years. Owolabi went to go and rewrite that exam. Today, he's speaking in every platform globally. Listen, if you allow fear to stop you, you will be the only loser. The same challenges that earn some people crutches, earn others wings. Make your choice. The same battles, family battles, lack of finance, lack of destiny helper that cripple some people, made some people leaders of their nation. They were in the same situation. One allowed fear in, the other one shut the door against fear. I need you to declare war against the spirit of fear. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid you are going to fail? I came to tell you, except you accept failure, you can't fail. Luke 21:26. I want you to make up your mind today after this. Make up your mind who you want to travel with. Luke 21:26. Men's hearts failing them for what? For fear. Men's heart failing them for fear. Men's heart failing them for fear. Job 3:25. That's why I call her out. Job said, for the thing which I greatly fear is come upon me. That which I was afraid of has come unto me. Now, leave that scripture on. Can you read it again and again? Look at it. Look at the screen. Listen. If you are afraid your marriage will break, God can't stop it from breaking. If you are afraid that you will never have a child, you can never have a child. Listen, you can't have a child by a miracle. You can't have a child by chance. Whatever you are afraid of, you are wearing. Whatever you are afraid of, you are wearing. Are you hearing me? You know, you can easily take off your ring. It's even the, what do they call this? What's the name of it? Nail polish. Whatever you are afraid of, you are one with. Whatever you are afraid of, you are sleeping with. You are lying down with. You go to the bedroom with. You know, you don't even, whatever, you are closer to your fear than your husband. Because at the time you go to the toilet, your husband doesn't go with you. My wife doesn't even allow. Even I'm in the toilet and I call her, she will never answer me. Say, when you come out, we'll be discussing the matter. Say, my love, come here now. Say, my friend, when you come out. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Listen, your fear is closer to you than your husband, than your wife, than your children. Know it today. He said, that which I was afraid of has happened. Your fear will always happen. Watch it. Sister Kofo is here now. Her husband is not here. Her children are not here. Her parents are not here. Her siblings are not here. But her nail polish is here. Her wristwatch is on her. Wherever she goes today, she goes with what she's wearing. Your fear follows you everywhere. That is why you need to be brutal in dealing with your fear. Because your fear doesn't want to leave you. You are wearing your fear everywhere you go. So you have to be determined to end it. Put up that scripture one more time. And I want to give you 5 minutes to think, what am I afraid of? Think through it. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? Think. I want to talk to yourself. I beg you. I'm giving you the 2-3 minutes. Think, what am I afraid of? There was a time I never believed I could make it. Even though I'm in the process now. I never believed that I asked my brother, does president go to toilet? It never entered into my mind by reason of my poverty-stinking background. And it never occurred to me I could make ends meet. I never knew it growing up in the village. I never knew it. I never believed that. Because I saw so much poverty and pain. What are you afraid of?